Hello, everyone. This is my video response to week 4 of our work for Ed 656, literacy in the content areas. So first, a couple of housekeeping things. Sorry, just checking notes. So I have reviewed everyone's work and I left comments, and some of the comments are pointing out things that are missing or things that could be improved. So please be sure to go back and look at your work and look at the comments. Specifically, there's a handful of you who didn't follow the guidelines for color coding the annotation that we've been using so far, and I've given you a chance to revise and resubmit that work. If you choose to do that, which you should do in the next day or so, email me so I can take a look at it. Otherwise, you won't receive full credit for that assignment. Okay. Second thing is that one of the things that's happening is that some of the groups have been using discussion groups. Have been using a group discussion as I had originally indicated when we started this cycle of reading responses, and some are using blogs. Both seem to be working. One thing that I have noticed, though, is that when the groups are using discussions instead of blogs, there's more interaction between group members. So while I haven't required that you interact with one another, it is really interesting to see that that's happening, and that seems to be more likely to happen when you post your work inside of a group discussion rather than as blog posts. So I just mentioned that. Lastly, and I said this in my email yesterday, that some of you reported problems with Novio, and I don't know what happened there, but so some of you seem to be able to use it successfully. Some of you had issues with it. I noticed that I had trouble using it in Chrome, but not in Firefox, if that makes any difference. I don't use Safari, so I don't know if that's an issue. But as I also said in my email, there are other tools that you could be using. And so, please use them. Do what you need to do, and certainly reach out if you need help. Okay, so those are the housekeeping things. Now I want to talk a little bit about your responses. So one of the things that was really interesting is in almost every response, you did a really interesting job as a whole, identifying where the readings and where our overall commitment to providing rich literacy-based experiences for our adolescent students. So capturing those kind of commitments, intentions, and goals, and even standards, but also, and this is the part that was very interesting, was many of you did a very good job articulating places where either the standards don't seem to adequately address the full range of student knowledge. I believe Rachel DeMeo made a really interesting distinction between, it's great that, she didn't quite say it this way, but it's great that we're focusing on literacy, but what about the ability to learn content as a result of reading? And the standards don't address that. And I thought that was a really interesting point. And several other people echoed that. Reading for reading's sake, developing literacy for literacy's sake is one thing, but in the current model, students participating in courses which are delineated by subjects. Those subjects have content area standards and goals. Learning goals, and so how do we meet all of that at the same time? So that was one kind of category of possible conflict, you might say, between the literacy standards and the things you are reading and your actual practice of teaching. Another kind of conflict that people did a really good job identifying is, what about students? And Giuseppe brings this up, although there were several people, but Giuseppe said, look, my student population is mostly emerging ELL students. And so, yeah, we could talk, and again, this is my kind of paraphrasing, we can talk about increasing literacy, but I have students who are really struggling to adequately work successfully in English, let alone giving them complex texts. So how do I kind of square that circle between meeting the needs of my students and meeting the needs called for by those standards. And many of you brought that up, and some of you, and Colleen Vogel was one of them, who really brought it up as an issue of equity. Are we, in fact, by kind of not ignoring, but kind of complying with the standards, are the standards equitable? Are they designed to meet the needs of all students, or are they privileging certain populations of students, or certain schools, or certain classes? And I think that that's something that we will. In fact, I know it's something we're going to continue to address vigorously in this course as the readings go on, as we start to do our project work later in the semester. So I ask that as you deal with the week 5 readings, that you kind of have those issues in the background, the issues of equity, the issues of what about the demands of content areas, the issues of what about students with very different literacy capabilities and needs and resources, all that stuff. So I guess what I'm saying is I'm asking you to now double down, so to go beyond the reading and responding, although you should absolutely do that, and for sure use the color coding annotation, and for sure do your work in time for your group leaders to do the 3x3 by next weekend. But also keep in the back of your mind these conflicts and challenges that were brought up, which I think are really, really rich. So that's a quick take on your work, which by and large was really good. Remember, look at the comments I left, make changes, and notify me if you do make changes, if you need to. And as always, if you need anything, just shout. All right, take care.